Hello and welcome to Blythe Ray Business News. Today I'm joined by Sean Wade, CEO of Power Metal Resources, and Ian Freeman, CEO of Mindstarters. Power Metal is listed on AIM in London with a ticker of POW and a market capitalisation of around £19 million. The company has just announced its investment into Minestarters, an exciting new blockchain-enabled venture. Sean, Ian, welcome. Sean, I'll come to you first. Can you provide an overview of this investment and why you're looking to step into this emerging alternative to mine financing now?
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Alastair, for having us. It's a great pleasure to be here talking about what is an extremely exciting evolution for the Power Metal story and a very, very, very exciting investment indeed. As we've announced in our RNS, which I'm sure most of your viewers will have already seen, we are investing up to £3 million in cash to go up to 49% of Minestarters. Now, this is a blockchain-enabled tokenization platform, which we think is going to be transformative for mining finance, and we're going to go on to talk more about how it works and what it's going to mean for Power Metal shareholders.
Thank you. And before we get into the benefits of this investment for Power, let's focus on Minestarters for a few minutes. Ian, this will be a name that's not too familiar with some of Power's original shareholders and some of the viewers. Can you just provide us with a brief background of who you are and outline what Minestarters is?
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Alastair, and thanks for having us here today to talk about this exciting project. My name's Ian Freeman. I have spent my career taking very early stage technology businesses in very early stage high growth sectors to market, primarily in highly regulated markets, which is very important when you're working with finance and with blockchain. And what we found fascinating about this particular project when we looked at the mining sector is that actually it feels very ripe for transformation actually. Speaking with the founder of Minestarters, Marcel Nally, who has had some tremendous success taking Moshiko to market, and looking at the experience he had in the market, for us bringing together blockchain, bringing together decentralized finance, bringing together Marcel Nally's great knowledge of that market segment, seemed like a fantastic time to enter this space.
Yeah, thank you. And can you break down some of the concepts a bit further, mainly around what is blockchain, decentralized finance, and how does this fit into the mining sector?
Sure. Look, why don't we just reverse back a little bit and talk a little bit about what Minestarters is, though, first of all, because what we're building out is an institutional grade, blockchain-enabled, decentralized finance platform. Our goal is to transform the early stage mining project finance segment. And the way we want to do that is by offering a transparent, liquid, diversified investment opportunity through tokenization. So that means that token holders can enjoy the benefits of a diversified, institutionally curated portfolio of mining projects, early stage mining projects, and reap the benefits of those returns and the value that they create over time. And it's a good question. So what is blockchain and how does blockchain come about? Look, really important to remember that blockchain has been in the market for something like 25 years. I was fortunate enough to work with a man called Don Tapscott, who wrote Wikinomics back in 2008, and he was evangelizing for blockchain at that time. And it was something that I personally always wanted to be involved with as a project, which was at the right time. Let's work with blockchain. And so blockchain, you've got to think about it like a transparent, tamper-proof ledger, really. Think about it like a bank statement, where every transaction is recorded, it's immutable, and at certain points, your bank automatically does things for you. And that's blockchain. That's what it does. And what a blockchain, and what we use blockchain for in the tokenization world, is to create digital tokens, or if you like, digital certificates that are created through cryptography. And by owning those tokens, by owning a Minestarters token, you can effectively take an ownership position or a fractional ownership position in the Minestarters proposition. And that's pretty much how it works. Now, the key benefit of tokenization and working on the blockchain is liquidity, because once you're an owner of a fractional owner of a Minestarters token, you can buy and sell 24/7 on exchanges, and you can realize value created at any point in time. From what we can see, traditional mining finance, your capital's locked up. It's not a liquid environment.
And this is something, Sean, I know you might have experienced with Power Metal. So there's a real synergy between the technology experience that you hold, Ian, and Power Metal's track record in the mining developments. So can you just explain a bit further around that, Sean?
Well, that's a great question, Alastair, because let's talk about, just for a second, what it is that Power Metal does. Okay, we explore early stage assets, we add value to those assets, and then we seek to crystallize that value for shareholders. And we've done that recently with Guardian Metal. We've exited our position there, as your viewers will know. We've just recently IPO'd First Development Resources, and we're in a joint venture with UCAM with our uranium assets in Canada. So those are three good examples of how we have our business model in action. Let's put it that way. Now, and you know, we're very, as far as I'm concerned, this is going very well, and we've added tremendous value to our shareholders. However, we also know that capital is still scarce. It's still extremely expensive at the exploration end of the market. I mean, this has been the case for a very long time, and it's a great frustration for shareholders that these projects require tremendous amounts of capital. And as Ian said eloquently just now, that these are not always liquid propositions. It's difficult to get in. It takes quite a long time. It's difficult to get out. Timing is, very uncertain. And investors are being asked to lock a lot of capital away for potentially, years. And as a consequence, that capital tends to be very expensive and is relatively scarce. What Mindstarters is going to do, and I want to put this as simply as possible, because obviously there's a lot for people to digest here. What is blockchain? How does it work, etc. And I just want, from a Power Metal point of view, okay, what is this going to do? It is going to get us the opportunity to get involved in bigger, better projects with more liquidity and an ability for us to take our current business model and scale it up. This is going to make us, if this works, which we obviously think it is, this is going to make us into a much bigger company with the opportunity to develop what we like to talk about as our mining merchant bank model. I mean, or how we have been described as such. I mean, we obviously, Rick Rule has talked about that a lot. And it's evolving that model into this fintech blockchain angle. So, for shareholders listening to this, they'll be thinking, is this a complete change of business? It's absolutely not. It's an evolution of what we're currently doing, but with a much more liquid environment, pools of capital that we currently don't access, which we will have the ability through this to access, and it will give us the opportunity to be a much, much bigger player in the space, better quality, bigger projects. And as Ian said, Mark Nally's been doing this for a very long time. He's got a fantastic track record as a geologist. Ian's track record in the space in terms of the blockchain and the companies he's worked with. Our experience of crystallizing value and adding value for shareholders, it's a fantastic synergy putting us all together. So that's why we're really, really excited to be talking about this.
Thank you, Sean. That was a great overview of why this is actually important for Power Metal shareholders.
I think, if I may add, it's just to build on what Sean's saying. I mean, that's precisely that triumvirate of unique selling points that we are bringing together. Power Metal's crystallization, proven crystallization experience has been an incredible part of the story. Yeah, bringing all the geologists and the qualification we have, plus the technology capabilities that we have, it's a really powerful story. And I think one thing we didn't talk about is what is a decentralized finance model? What does that actually look like? And so really all it means is that let's take the word decentralized out of that two-word equation, if you like. And what it really means is that we're removing the intermediaries, and actually all processes can be settled through smart contracts. The smart contracts are pretty much settled through automated processes, a little bit like an automated escrow agreement, for example, something like that. Once the loan hits, okay, those certain conditions are met, the contract programmatically executes on the blockchain. And this is all recorded through this transparent and tamper-proof blockchain technology. So by removing all of the intermediaries, you get the benefit of saving time, you get the benefit of saving money, and you get transparency across the network, across the chain, as you might say.
Yeah, thank you. I think there's another question of around how do you manage the risk element of investing in early stage assets with this new technology and this new way of financing?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Look, we are, first of all, we are incubating a very diverse portfolio of early stage mining projects across multiple different jurisdictions, across multiple commodities. And that allows us to diversify the investment risk. At the technology level, there is risk management built into the platform and the regulatory model that we put together. And then you combine that with the approach around smart contracts, which means that the investor has full visibility of the project as it progresses. And once those milestones are hit, automatically the value created from those milestone hits come back into the token treasury and can get distributed to either the treasury or the token holders or whatever the model is that we choose going forwards.
Can I just add something on that? Because this is one of the things that really struck me when we started talking about this a while ago. And obviously we've been working on this for some time, as you can imagine. And this is a point, I think, from my less technological background that I'd really like to get across to people, is this point about the smart contracts and the way that the capital is allocated according to the various milestones that the project is expected to meet. That, as Ian said, it's immutable, it's built into the blockchain right at the very beginning. And what that's going to create is a tremendous amount of capital discipline for the projects and for the explorers. One of the things that frustrates investors in this sector is that mining exploration is, by its very nature, is difficult, it's uncertain, it's expensive. And there is often a high degree of subjectivity involved in respect to, have we found something, we found indications of something, we've furthered our understanding of this asset, we maybe need to do some more drilling, we need to, and that subjectivity is important, but can often, frankly, it can destroy value. It can be very, very difficult to bridge the gap between what maybe the geologists think that they have got and what the money guy, me, and I suppose in this context, thinks is an acceptable return or an acceptable outcome. Now, to an extent, that sort of, I suppose you call it sort of site opposition, is where a lot of the value is created. But to have effectively a lot of that subjectivity removed that says, if this happens, then this happens, and if this happens, then you get more money, and if this doesn't happen, you don't, I think is going to bring a capital discipline to the sector that I think is, frankly, to be welcomed. So going back to the point earlier, this is going to give us access to a lot more capital and therefore bigger and better projects. It's also going to mean that we are managing that capital much more effectively and efficiently. And I think that's a really important message for shareholders to say, look, we love what you're doing. The geological prospectivity of your assets is great, but early stage work, it's frustrating for us as shareholders because we don't really know what to expect. We don't know what the outcomes are going to be. And we need to know that you're managing this capital effectively because, look, it's scarce and it's expensive. This brings that discipline to the heart of our business. And that's really, really important. And that was one of the things that, I looked at this and I thought, well, obviously getting bigger and better projects, getting a 24/7 liquidity, having a pool of capital that we at the moment haven't been able to access, that's all fantastic. But actually what this is also going to do is it's going to help us run our business much better. And that's a really, really key point.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point, that this increased cash management is something quite hard to find in the junior market nowadays. And so bringing this new platform on board will actually help you to almost eliminate any waste in the financing, and it goes directly to source. Would you say that's a fairly accurate?
Yes, I think so. I mean, look, the geologists are still going to be able to do their jobs properly. I mean, obviously, and we've got, and Mark has got, decades of experience in all of this. And we obviously want to do business with him, which is why we're doing this. So, it doesn't fundamentally change the fact that you're going to have to drill holes and try and find things. But what it does mean is that everybody is going to be held to a very sort of disciplined environment, which is going to be reflected in the kind of projects we take on. It's going to be reflected in the kind of outcomes we're expecting, but it's also going to be reflected in the visibility that the investors, both the token holders and our shareholders, will be able to see in the projects. I mean, as Ian said, it'll be almost in real time, as you will be able to see through the blockchain as the projects are developing. And it'll change the way that investors receive their news about the projects. I mean, at the moment, we're very circumspect, and we, in particular with the Iranian business, as people know, we're very circumspect about saying what we think we might have, and until we've got assay results and stuff. Now, that won't change in the sense that, we're not going to create, speculation about discoveries, but people will have a lot more sort of hands-on information, if you like, be able to see much more about what the actual project is doing, what's going on the site, how many cores have been drilled, all this kind of thing. Because the more people understand the projects and what's going on behind the scenes, the more confident they are that you're doing the job properly. Necessarily, we have to be, as I said, pretty circumspect. But I recognise that having more transparency to the way projects are curated, developed, chosen, and ultimately executed, I think can only be a good thing for shareholders.
I definitely agree with that statement. You mentioned a bit earlier that the conversations have been going on in the background for some time. Obviously, to some shareholders, this may seem like an announcement that's come out of the blue, but can you explain a bit the rationale for making the investment now?
Yes, I mean, look, we've gone through a bit of an evolution over the last few months in any case. We've had this tremendously successful investment in Guardian Metal Resources, and we've sold out of our position in 2 tranches. We've made nearly 12 times our money on that. It was one of the first things that we did when I became CEO was to get that IPO away. It's been fantastically successful, and we've exited. Now, as a consequence of that, we're sitting on a large amount of cash. Now, I obviously had visibility on the exit strategy for that position, and a lot of shareholders have been asking me, quite understandably, what are you going to do with the cash? You've now got multiple millions on the balance sheet. Are we going to have a share buyback? Are we going to have new projects? Are you going to put more cash into the existing projects? Or are you just going to sit on a big pile of cash and pay a dividend perhaps, or whatever? And clearly we've looked at a lot of different options, capital return obviously being amongst them. But fundamentally what we need to do as a business is to develop, and is doing obviously we want to increase the size of the business. We want to increase the opportunities that we have. And inevitably, if you've got a decent cash position, the phone rings a lot with people saying, well, I've got a nice project, maybe you'd like to co-invest with me, and so on. And we've welcomed a lot of input. But I was really looking for the next stage in Power Metals development. By the way, just as an aside, the current project base that we have, if these projects are good enough to make it into the Minestarters model, if you like, there's a very good opportunity for us to get some of our current projects funded through this, and shareholders should understand that, that there is an opportunity for, as it were, the core business. But I was looking to see how can we evolve Power Metal into a new era, bearing in mind that capital markets are still very difficult, capital is still scarce and expensive, but we want to move on in life. We've exited a successful investment. What do we do now? So it was serendipity, I suppose, if you like. I was introduced to Mark. We had a conversation about his vision for Mindstarters. We both quickly recognised that there was a very strong synergy between his idea and our business model. And so we've been working on putting this together. Ian's been responsible for building out the technology platform, and obviously he's talked a bit about that. And that work is well underway, and we've been extremely pleased with the progress we've made there. But obviously there's been there's been a complicated legal agreement that's been entered into, and most importantly, we had to be in a position whereby we have the cash in order to make this investment, which we now have. So it's all come together all at the right time, just as we're starting to think, okay, what's next for Power? After a very successful investment, FDR, which we hope is going to follow the same path, that IPO has now happened. Now what do we do? And this has come along just at the right time. So look, it's going to generate a lot of news, which I know people really like. We're going to be able to talk about how the technology platform is building out, how the token environment is developing. We're going to obviously talk about marketing the tokens themselves in the fullness of time. But also we're going to be talking very soon, I hope, about the projects that are going to come on board that are going to back the token itself. The real world asset token is a very, very fast growing, as Ian said, it's a very, very fast growing part of the market. And from a Power Metal point of view, this is giving us an opportunity to be a first mover here. So we're really grabbing this, and it's going to take us into a new phase. So that's very exciting. And just one thing I wanted just to add on this, because I know for a lot of viewers they'll be thinking, oh, hang on, what crypto? I've heard a lot about this. This is not a treasury strategy in the way that a lot of people in the sector, in our sector, have done, and obviously some companies have been enormously successful with that, where what we're not doing is selling our guardian metal and then buying a load of either Bitcoin or cryptocurrency or whatever. However much a good strategy that is for some companies, that is not what we're doing here. We are using that tokenized, decentralized environment to access a much, much bigger pool of capital and much, much bigger and better projects.
Yeah, fantastic. Building on everything that Sean was saying, if you look at the market dynamics right now, from what we're seeing, there's $200 billion is spent in the mining sector annually. That only 2% of that goes to early stage mining projects. And yet on the other side, the real world, what's known as the real world asset tokenization space is absolutely booming. It's grown in this year alone from a 8.6 billion to nearly, it's over 26 billion already. So capital's pouring into that segment. BlackRock have got their own fund with $2.9 billion into that segment, and others are making moves. So on the one hand, we've got this capital scarcity to fund projects that actually at the start of the value chain return the most. And we've got these capital markets that are kind of booming in another segment, and Mindstarters is all about bridging that gap.
Perfect. I mean, it seems like there is a big future ahead for not just Minestarters and Power Metal Resources, but for tokenization and DeFi itself. Can you just touch upon the next steps for the platform, kind of looking at a bit shorter to mid-term, and how Minestarters will look to help facilitate Power's evolution?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we're building out our go-to-market strategy. Actually, we're quite far down the line with that right now. And again, for anybody who's not familiar with the technology, we don't necessarily have to know how the internet works to know that online banking is a transformer for our daily lives. But there's some guiding stars that we follow. So it's compliance. It's making sure that we have the right regulatory robustness in the platform, and that we can execute in the way that takes this business from to a market-leading position of its type in the next 3 to 5 years. The beautiful thing is that we haven't actually touched upon is that we have this already huge pipeline and a funnel of projects that we are going through our technical audit on to say, okay, are they coming onto the platform? Are these projects going to create value for our portfolio? And so on and so forth. So as we go through this and start building out our smart contract technology, our smart contract processes to support the protocol that we're launching on, we're in a very, very strong place. So in terms of next steps, we are looking to launch imminently once we put all these strands together. So yeah, it's an exciting time.
Thank you. And Sean, do you want to provide any current investors or potential investors with just some closing remarks?
Yes. Look, I think that I'm very conscious, and we've talked before. I've been fortunate enough to be on this show a few times, talking about things that we have done or planning to do, and so on. And I think that the business has had tremendous success over the last couple of years. But I do also recognise that it's been very difficult to have that reflected in the share price. We've talked a lot about our shareholders' funds per share, for example, and we show that on our website, and we show on a daily basis or a real-time basis the discount the shares trade to that NAV per share. But I know that shareholders have been frustrated that it's been very difficult to get new interest in the shares, which is obviously what ultimately makes shares go up. And we've done a lot of marketing. We've been to the US a lot, as you will know, in the Rick Rule Symposium. But it seems to be it's very difficult to translate the shareholder value that we have created in the business into a shareholder share price and an absolute return for our shareholders. And in order to do that, what you need is to get momentum. Okay, you need to have something going on in the business that people want to be a part of, that they want to invest in. And we think that this is a fantastic opportunity on that basis. So people can look at this and think, okay, well, this is a departure for the sector overall. This is potentially, we think, transformative, not just for Power Metal, but for the juniors in overall terms. And we're going to be at the absolute forefront of that with the first mover. We're making a very substantial investment in this, and it's going to generate tremendous value, and we think a tremendous amount of interest. So, look, I really think that I'm hoping that our shareholders are going to be right behind this. As ever, we're always available to talk to people or to answer emails one-to-one. We're going to do a lot of educational work on this because I recognise that in the, 20 minutes or so we've been talking, we've given a lot of information which is new to a lot of people, blockchain and so forth. So we're planning to do a lot of marketing, some webinars and opportunities for Ian to talk through worked examples of how blockchain works and smart contracts, etc. And we really, I think we can get people behind us on this. I know you guys are very keen on the story, and we're really excited to work with you to get our message out. So, I just think watch this space, and hopefully we're going to be able to continue to generate, I should say, a tremendous amount of value, but that will now start to get translated, I hope, into a higher share price and great returns for our shareholders.
Excellent, and yes, an exciting opportunity, and personally exciting to be working on it with you guys. Sean, you mentioned there will be a few webinars coming up. In the meantime, is there anywhere viewers can go to learn a little bit more about Mindstarters outside of the announcement that was released this morning?
Yes, so what we've done if people look at the RNS, they'll see a link there that will take you to a presentation that we've put together, which covers a lot of the points that we've talked about, but it puts it in a form that's very digestible and I think easy to understand. So there's a resource there. But as I said, we're going to be working hard on this, and we're going to be talking a lot about it. And if people have got any specific feedback that they want to give us on this, they know how to get hold of me. And we're very happy to take meetings and to talk more and to explain what we think is going to be a fantastic value proposition for shareholders.
I definitely agree with that last statement. Well, thank you both for joining me today and talking through this exciting opportunity, and especially for outlining the technology behind it, especially to some viewers who may be new to this part of the sector. And that's it for today's edition of Blythe Business News. Thank you for watching.